Good morning, everyone. I am going to call today's July 19th Washoe County Board of County Commissioner meeting to order. And I would love it if Chief Judge Scott Pearson could lead us in the pledge.
It would be my honor. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, can you please call the roll?
Certainly. Von Hartung, Chair, over Zoom.
Here.
Vice Chair Alexis Hill.
Here.
Bob Lucy.
Here.
Katie Jung, over Zoom.
Present.
Jean Herman.
Here.
County Manager Eric Brown. Here. Deputy District Attorney Jen Gustafson.
Present.
And I'm Jan Gallassini, your County Clerk. Madam, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Mr. Manager, can you please lead us into public comment?
Item 3 is public comment. Comment heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the commission agenda. The commission will also hear public comment during individual action items with comment limited to 3 minutes per person. Comments are to be made to the commission as a whole.
Madam Clerk.
First up, we have Elise Weatherly.
Good morning, Elise Weatherly. Here we are again. I just wanted to let you know that I've been thinking a lot about Washoe County recently. I've been thinking about the fact that, as Tom Gordon, my engineer, says, the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. And so we have people running for office that are doing things that I wouldn't approve of, but they're still being voted in, and that bothers me a lot. So how I'm going to address this is by two things. I'm going to finish the I Told You So project with Tom Gordon. I'm going to hit him up with it this month going, I have some songs that people at their last breath might hear me say, I told you so. And it'll be too late, but if I sing about it now, then it'll be fine. What about, my experience in this community where, I found out that HR doesn't stand for human resources, it stands for hiders and runners. I actually saw people in HR positions lying. I'm going, we're not supposed to lie. That's not right. However, if you don't know what the difference is between right and wrong, then how are you going to do what's right? So one of the things that I had to do when I first went to the El Dorado is after I read that IRS documentation, that horrible IRS documentation, kind of like the state of Nevada documentation that deals with homeowners associations. And I went, we're doing it wrong. And I thought, well, I can either hide the truth or I can tell the truth and risk my job, risk my life, risk my paycheck, right? And I thought by then I knew what was right and wrong, so I went, okay, I'm gonna go tell them the truth. And you know what they did? They listened. I thought for sure that every employee was going to be very angry with me, but it didn't matter to me because what matters the most to God is that we do what's right, and following the laws is right. All right, the other thing that I want to say is that what I've been going on about recently are systems, right? Miss IT, I want the best systems there are. Sometimes the good systems cost a little bit of money, right? But how about in the Washoe County judicial system, they changed that e-flex system to something that's actually negotiable and you can navigate through it. That's when you can maybe learn that you thought you had a case against your daughter because she just refused, to do anything right. And you found out that it was a judge that had a case against you for asking him why he made the child support for my daughter so low. Did you know that almost cost me things? It put some judges in some very bad positions. All I will say is that systems matter, the truth matters, God matters, what we do matters, and at the end, I would not like people to hear my haunting words say, I told you so. Thank you.
Next up, we have William T. Stewart.
Good morning. For the record, William T. Stewart. How's everybody doing today?
Okay, a year ago, what do we have going on? We had the Dixie Fire, Caldor Fire started in August, and the Tamarack Fire July 4th. So wildfire season is upon us. We've had a couple local fires, not too big, thank God. What I'm going to do here today is basically talk to you about a couple things. I've talked to our county emergency manager about wildfire season guide. It's something that Nevada County does on a yearly basis. It's a great publication. It doesn't cost a whole lot of money. And it gets people out there. How do I put this in front of here? A lot of information. There is a evacuation checklist. There is people with disabilities that need help. There's Code Red. There's all the things I think that we are trying to do here in the county, but we need to do a better job of that. Talking to the people and getting out and going to HOA meetings that I've been doing. Working with Kelly Nells with Nevada Division of Forestry. She actually just told me about a great opportunity that I'm going to summarize her notes. There is $250,000 available for a CWPP update or creation. I know Truckee Meadows is in a process of updating theirs. I think there's maybe 3 or 4 fire departments that are actually have theirs updated. But then there is $10 million for project implementation of any projects mentioned in an updated CWPP. And for those of you at home, CWPP stands for Community Wildfire Protection Plan, and that just basically talks about local, state, tribal, and federal governments working together, right there, regionally, to protect our county as well as our state. So there's tons of money out there for us to do a better job of making sure that we're prepared, because an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, like my friend Ben Franklin said all the time. That's one of the things we've got to do a better job of. There's going to be fires coming up. There already are this summer as well. This guide is going to be a great opportunity, the wildfire season guide. And then there's NFPA. I know this breaks policy, but I'm not waiving this. So this is NFPA's Firewise USA. I started this program with my community in Sparks. Vintage Hills is one of probably half a dozen Firewise communities. That's through NFPA, and it basically talks with local residents to try to get them recognized for Firewise. And all that does is basically you have a meeting every May 7th. It's on the books. It's I'm running out of time. Every May 7th is an annual cleanup day to make sure you clean up all your pine needles, you walk around your property, you clean stuff up. You basically submit that to the state. The state kicks that to Nevada, to Colorado, and then you get a recognition program, and then these go up in front of your HOA, like over in Del Webb, over by Somerset. So these are some great things that I think we need to do. I know there's going to be possibly 3 more seats in front of us that may be vacant next year. So please pass on to your next in line what we need to do.
Thank you.
Mark Newman.
Leave too quickly. I want to talk to you. Good morning, everybody. For the record, Mark Newman. I'm here today not to bitch or complain at you, but to actually thank you. I spoke with Ryan Crane from the Senior Services Washoe County, and he was able to deliver out to Sun Valley Senior Center roughly around 20 of the fans for the seniors out there that could not get fans or come into the local station here at 9th Street. So I'm saying a special shout out to him. Now, I spoke with Steve McBride also from Senior Services, and he had printed out a really nice brochure. I was going to bring him in today, but I had distributed them out to the senior center out there and also to the Sun Valley GID for the seniors within Sun Valley to get it. If you have a chance, you should also look at that brochure. I was going to bring it to the CAB meeting that we had at the beginning of the month. He had put a special effort into printing them out, but unfortunately, for some reason or another, Sun Valley seems to be the highest outbreak in Washoe County, because out of all the county meetings and CAB meetings and everything else, Sun Valley happened to be the one that was canceled due to COVID. Thank you very much. You have a great day.
Catherine Snedeker.
For the record, Catherine Snedeker, a non-person, non-resident, unenfranchised natural woman. Men are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And to secure not grant or create these rights. Governments are instituted. The property which a man has honestly acquired, he retains full control of, subject to the limitations that he not use it to his neighbor's injury. By whatever operation and effect any general regulation is used to extinguish or destroy that which by the law of the land is the property of any person that has it in effect is unconstitutional. That's why I keep telling you your codes don't apply to me. If it deprives an owner of one of its essential attributes, destroys its value, restricts or interrupts its common and necessary or profitable use, hampers the owner in any application of its purpose of trade, or imposes conditions on the right to hold or use it, thereby seriously impairs its value. Justice Brandeis eloquently affirmed his condemnation of abuses practiced by government officials who were defendants acting as government officials in the case of Olmstead versus United States. One other thing this document says is, you can't restrict me to benefit my neighbor any more than I can do something that's dangerous on my property that would harm my neighbor. My private property for my personal use is none of your business. It's not any of your business on anybody's property. It's restrictions destroying the value of our properties because you decided, oh, what happened here? Is it still on? I'm tired of you infringing on the Constitution where you swore an oath to secure our rights.
Cindy Martinez.
Good morning, Commissioners, Madam District Attorney, Madam Clerk, Mr. Manager. For the record, Cindy Martinez. And I want to talk about positive things this morning. And I'd like to ask everybody, not only here in the chambers, but also out there in Washoe County, how are you liking your election cycle this year? I take it very personally and very seriously about being an informed voter, and I encourage my fellow citizens to exercise that same effort and time in researching candidates and making informed choices on those for whom we want to have represent us at all levels of government. And of course, you have to start with the Constitution. Of course, you know, I've waved this around for a couple of years now. But to understand the course of our system of government, you have to understand, you in the general sense, everybody out in Wonderland, about what the foundation of our constitutional government was founded upon. And then if you want to know what the intent of this is that you need to go back and read the Federalist and Anti-Federalist papers, which will put you to sleep if you're having trouble sleeping at night. But that's what it takes to understand what this country is about and what the process is involved. And then if you want to know what our legislature did recently, you can also go to the Nevada Policy Research Institute, their website, as well as ask for their printout that tells what they did in the legislature and where your representatives fell on the issues that you most closely align with your core values. And I raise this because, you know, politics is a full body contact blood sport. And my feelings would be hurt with things that are being said about many of us if I had any. So fortunately, I've got pretty thick skin. And you know, if you're involved in this, you've got to be objective about that and understand that not only am I articulating my position about freedom and constitutional governance, it's not just from the perspective of being a conservative, is that the government is for all of the people. So while I hold conservative principles, I also am wise enough to understand and know that those for whom I vote, those who ask to represent our interest, also have to govern across left, right, and in the middle. So the reality is I cannot vote for somebody and expect that you only vote in my interest, because you have a responsibility to represent all the people. And it's a fallacy and unfortunate to demonize people if they don't completely vote for just my interest. Because if you only vote on what I believe in, that means that somebody in the middle and somebody on the other side is not having their voice heard. And I believe that everybody should have their voice heard. That's what the constitutional governance is about. It's not about hair on fire ideology. It's not about exclusion. It's about everybody having a voice in the process. And I encourage everybody to join us on this white highway. Thank you.
That's everybody who signed in chambers, but I do have 2 emails, one from Sarah Bartholomew and one from Jacqueline McCloskey that will be placed on the record.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Manager, will you please take us into item number 4?
Item 4 is a presentation and update by Chief Deputy Ralph Caldwell on FY 21-22 fourth quarter status report for the Washoe County Regional Detention Facility, to include security of the jail, conditions of confinement, staffing, and medical care of inmates housed by the Washoe County Sheriff's Office. Acknowledge receipt of report. Chief Deputy.
Good morning. Hello. Chief Deputy Ralph Caldwell, Washoe County Sheriff's Office. I oversee detention. Hello, Your Honor. I wanted to start with more good news. I just double checked. We have 0 COVID-19, no monkeypox or any other newsworthy infectious diseases currently in the jail that have been identified. We do continue to offer vaccines testing, and we do screen for influenza-like symptoms upon arrival, and we route accordingly and monitor for all inmates that come in. Last time I spoke, we had a rash of fentanyl overdoses that was affecting the health and welfare of our inmates. We made great strides, I think, in reducing and removing fentanyl to include locating several bindles in one of our housing units through the efforts of one of our recently hired deputy sheriffs who conducted a proper investigation and was able to trace the influx of fentanyl to one particular arrest from a gentleman who was on probation, expected to get arrested, and had secreted it in his person for the sole purpose of selling it within our facility. So he's looking at several additional charges at this point. And in speaking with NAFCARE, they don't have any documented naloxone administrations for the last few months. Also, for welfare of the inmates, I hope someone was able to see KRNB showcased our mental health unit to highlight some of the work that the deputies in there are doing, to include the calisthenics, yoga, stretching programs, team games, and group activities to encourage inmates that struggle with mental health issues to participate in their own care, hygiene, and socialization to help improve their stay and better their outcomes upon release and participation in their own court processes. We also showcased graduation. Getting Ahead While Getting Out is a program that is being taught by Chaplain Sharp, who is paid for by commissary funds. He administers that class to people that are in custody for extended periods. We graduated several, and a former graduate wanted to come back who's been out of custody for several months and speak to the attendees and graduates about his experiences since getting out and employing greater life skills and planning, talking about his experience as a college student, making the dean's list, being gainfully employed, and his parents living long enough to see him finally turn his life around. So we're very excited to be facilitating those classes and making opportunities available to our inmates. In addition to that particular program, which is abbreviated on this slide as GAWGO, we continue to offer GED, substance abuse, domestic violence, and parenting classes. I included the completion rates up there because it's important as the sheriff is able to offer 5-day kicks for sentenced inmates. They're able to complete these courses. It provides motivation for inmates to attend classes, participate in a meaningful way, and give them the opportunity to better themselves while reducing their incarceration and equivalent costs. We have begun having representatives from SNAP to come in and counsel inmates. We have a member of our detention services unit, Greg, who works for the state and is able to help them with Medicaid applications. We've also heard from inmates when receiving services from DSU how helpful it would be to at least get an ID card upon release. And so the DMV is already under obligation to work with state inmates to provide them an avenue to obtain ID cards. They're going to extend that to us, and we're going to offer services to inmates to help them obtain their ID cards prior to their release, to help them transition to a more productive lifestyle. Our medical update, we continue to refuse those that appear that they would be unfit to survive in our facility without extensive medical care. Our grievances are managed, and several of them are filed as grievances, but really people just want to get Tylenol or they're missing a medication and they use the wrong avenue. So sometimes that gets artificially inflated. I'm going to go ahead to this next slide here. Patients on mental health medications. I noticed that those numbers are trending upwards. I don't have a full year-to-year comparison, but I think this brief snapshot here that shows every month we're increasing the amount of our patients on medications. We do have a higher average daily population, but that percentage of inmates that are receiving or requiring some kind of mental health medications just to function in our population continues to increase and place greater demands on our staff and security. So our average daily population, as of this morning, we were at 1315, I believe. We are triple bunking in male and female cells because according to some legal opinions that we obtained throughout the West Coast with Ninth Circuit experience, that's the better bad alternative than day room bunking. It affords greater levels of privacy, security, plus it allows our deputy to do their other functions without maintaining that direct eye contact on inmates that are housed in the day room. For this quarter, we're at almost 18 days for our average daily average length of stay. It's 17.69. That's been trending upwards since I've been assigned to this position back in the fall. Bookings slightly down, nothing quite as high as almost a year ago. Our fourth quarter bookings, 3,658. Unfortunately, only releasing 3,600. That continues to contribute to our population problems. Fights have been down this quarter. As we train deputies, and I'll get to that in a little bit, we have higher presence. There's greater personnel present in the units to monitor and interact with inmates to try to identify and prevent problems from surfacing to an actual fight. No in-custody deaths, when that continues a positive trend, perhaps tied back to our fentanyl removal efforts. And fights are also down significantly from the quarter just prior. Well, not significantly, but we are making a difference with our increased staffing that are starting to show up and work through our training programs. DSU continues to arrange for transport for inmates to attend programs or some sort of alternatives. Recently, you may have seen in the news, we had an inmate released and immediately began burglarizing cars in our parking lot, so he got rearrested. Well, on that second arrest, DSU interdicted, made sure he didn't just get released out into the parking lot again until they were able to get a hold of family that would transport him back to his home and provide some additional supervision that he clearly needed. They do all that while saving us money, almost $300,000 for the quarter. They do that with a full-time staff of, I think, 5 deputies plus some civilian help with the MAC coordinator, the Medicaid employee. Draw your attention back to the $13,000 savings that we get from our programs through commissary funded staff. It's a really good bang for our buck, both programs, and we do need the two-pronged approach for the wraparound services that DSU provides. So as of this week, there are 24 deputies working their way towards being self-sufficient and released into line positions towards the end of August. That second bullet, we, I think, lost 1 from the academy already, but that person was able to find an appropriate civilian position within the sheriff's office since they passed background and they want to be there. We don't want to just send them away. Definitely by December, and then in the weeks after that, as we get this next academy coming off of their training programs, the detention staffing issues are going to be greatly addressed. Thank you very much to this commission for all their support for the sheriff's office. We're doing our very best, and we have interest from across the country to attract and retain the best qualified candidates, and it's certainly a partnership that we appreciate from the commission. I'm available for your questions.
Thank you very much. I will start with the commission and chambers. Do you have anything? Commissioner Lucy, do you have anything? Okay, Commissioner Hartung?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to thank the Washoe County Sheriff's Office staff and Chief Deputy Caldwell for the tour that I got on July 7th. But you have not taken a tour yet, and I think they've tried to schedule all of us. But I encourage you to go up and take that tour to really sort of get a feel for what's actually happening. I think the sheriff is doing a great job. His staff has come up with some innovative solutions. But commissioners, we're going to have to think about the detention facility. And we've said this for many years, that it's the largest mental health facility in our region. And we're going to have to really start thinking about how we solve some of those problems. So not so much questions, Madam Chair, but just thanks to the sheriff and his staff for keeping us apprised. And I look forward to solving some of these problems, and they're not going to be easy to solve. It's a collective solution. But now that I think about it, Chief Deputy Caldwell, have we thought about aftercare when you have an inmate? Let's just say you have an inmate for a couple of weeks, and you get them going the right direction, dried out, as it were. Are we following through, and are we ensuring that once they are released, that we're trying to make sure that they are staying on track? And I know it's difficult because when they get back into the same environs, they'll continue with those habits. And so I don't know what the solution is for that, but are we thinking about that aftercare? And is there some way that the commission can participate?
So we think about it. Some of the deputies take it upon themselves. In that news piece, they highlighted Deputy Edwards and I believe Ackland that on their days off actually go and attend community court downtown to check in with inmates that they've developed some sort of a relationship with, to maybe remind them that there are people who care about them still. But that's not a formalized process. Right now, to have our DSU deputies are fully tasked in getting inmates in custody, coordinated with a program, whether it's court-ordered or not, kind of limits our ability to compel follow-up. So the closest we would come to that is probably our HOPE team that is assigned to operations that does follow up with persons experiencing houselessness. So we thought about it, but I don't know if we have the luxury to assign that as a tasking for follow-up. And it could be something as simple as phone calls or just checking in even with family members to see how people are going. So I will make sure, though, that hasn't already been explored and attempted.
No, and I appreciate that. And I know Chief Judge Pearson, who is in attendance today, he's thought a great deal about this. And I think it's one of those things that ultimately it might cost us a little more money on the front side, but it can save us huge amounts and on the backside, just in terms of dollar savings. But the bigger savings are restoring people's lives, and that's really where the great benefit for the community comes in. So I look forward to having this conversation more with both the sheriff, your staff, of course, Chief Deputy, and the courts and the commission. Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Commissioner Jung, do you have anything?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Yes, and I really hope that Commissioner Lucy is involved in the data dump, because he's actually our board subject matter expert on alternatives to sentencing, went out to Rikers Island, went out to courts in New York City and brought that back, I believe, at the behest and support of Chief Judge Pearson. So we got to get that data dump somewhere, and I believe what the chairman was mentioning is a warm handoff, which we've all been working towards. It's just like anything else. It's labor intensive and labor costs money. So another thing I just want to get on the record so that at least the vice chairwoman has this in her back pocket. There is going to be a day we're going to need to figure out either bonding or raising a tax. That whole jail, we need a whole brand new jail. The jail has, it gets the wear and tear even worse than a public school. So that's something else that I'm hoping the sheriff is speaking with the manager about, and the team that goes out and bonds and does all of that, because that also has outcomes and most importantly, staff morale to work in a place that is state of the art, just like our new fire stations, right? Everybody wants to work at the new fire stations. But I want to thank you for the presentation today. And again, thanks the sheriff because you now have all become social workers, counselors, and I love it. And I agree with the chairman. There's something that is very priceless, and that's humanity, to have a quality of life and live whatever their manifest destiny is. And I believe that's worth more than any money can buy. So good work, and let's keep working on that. And I'll always support that no matter where I'm at. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I have a few items. I also was able to tour the jail recently, and I was able to speak to an inmate in the one of the female bunking areas, and she had concerns about visitation with her young child and using a screen. And I don't know if there's any opportunities for moms of young children that they can see their children in person. And this is certainly a conversation we can have offline, but I know that it was very emotional for her that she can't see her child who's 2 years old. And I felt for her as a mom, and I feel like maybe there's a potential that we can do better for these moms. The other thought and opportunity that I had is I got to meet with Chaplain Sharp, and I think his program is incredible, and he has some ideas on how we can, speaking to Commissioner Jung and Commissioner Hartung's warm handoff, how can we work with folks after they leave the jail, be that support system. So often people don't have that social safety net and don't have family or have lost family and friends through addiction and other issues. And so I think there's opportunities for us to bolster his programming, and I'd like to see how we could start looking towards that for next fiscal year, and seeing back to Commissioner Jung, the idea of, the data on that and the successes, so we can build on that. And your detention services unit, they're amazing folks, and I really enjoyed walking around with them. And I just would like more details, and this can be offline, on just what the grievances are, what types of bookings that we're getting. And so I have a better understanding of why folks are staying so long, and what we can do with our regional partners to see if we can work through that.
I can very easily forward you some daily booking recaps.
Great.
And that can be a recurring thing or just a one-time snapshot if you'd like. So
I love recurring. That would be awesome. Thank you.
You say that now. Wait till you
I know.
start.
Then I'll regret it.
Basis. And to that end, as of today, there are 31 inmates awaiting a bed at Lakes Crossing. And
Okay,
some
yes.
of that goes back several months.
Continuing issue for us.
Yes, it's it's a challenge, and these are many times there are charges that they would have been time served in days past. The downside would be they may have reoffended 1 or 2 or 3 more times in those couple of months, but them being in custody and just waiting for Lakes Crossing to have bed space isn't doing anyone any good. So Captain Icaboni has made some progress in getting an idea from NAFCARE for a competency treatment in custody, but that's a whole nother price tag and a discussion that
we need to have.
I can let you guys in on, since it would be money.
And I think we're going to work through some of this lakes crossing situation at the ledge this next session, is my understanding. That's something we're working on.
Yes, ma'am.
And Commissioner Lucy has some items.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. And in the comments from the chairman, yourself, and Commissioner Jung have spurred some thoughts. As Commissioner Jung pointed out, and I want to thank this commission for giving me the opportunity to make this an opportunity for me to work on for the past 8 years. Chief Justice Pearson and I have taken this as personal missions for both of us. In his tenure in the Justice Court, not only as a judge, but he also oversees a number of the community courts that we've always felt could potentially be more effective in regards to this. But this is, if you really take a step back and look at this from a global standpoint, to some of the public comment this morning, there is efficacy in these warm handoffs and creating these pathways for individuals, but there's also cost savings and there's efficiency and efficacy. Instead of putting these individuals, just incarcerating them and moving on and to the next issue, trying to address the issues that we see consistently coming in. And I think, to the Vice Chair's point, seeing that data and Commissioner Jung seeing that data, it helps us really start steering people. And what I would task the manager with and this commission going forward is the work that we've done with the Center for Court Innovations in New York City. And, we have Chief Roper here from Alternative Sentencing today as well. There's a number of opportunities, and this commission has dedicated so much time and energy to creating alternative situations for individuals, from Crossroads to Sober 24 to Our Place to now the Safe Campus, the Safe Camps and CARES Campus. We have all these different opportunities to address some of this mental health issues that ultimately, if they aren't addressed, end up in our jail and cause these issues of finding housing and opportunities. Commissioner Jung and I, a few years back, got the opportunity with the previous county manager to visit the facilities with staff of St. Louis and the operations and within St. Louis and some of their issues about how they do those warm handoffs within St. Louis. And it was impressive because it really does start in the jail and transfer. And we spend a lot of time with our MOST team out in the field trying to deal with it and be proactive. But we also have to think about it internally. Once it's already in our jail and those situations have occurred, we have to be reactive to those. And having a larger train of thought of how we can work with the judiciary, how we can work with alternative sentencing to increase our community courts, how we can monitor people in a different facet and provide them maybe the services and care that they need immediately, but continuing to transfer those to the Human Services Department really makes the grander program so much more expansive and really intensive in the sense that we're really addressing the concerns and the issues of the community and the individuals. Because I would venture to say, through my visits at the jail and multiple jails across this country, not all of the individuals that are in our jail are necessarily there because they want to be there or need to be there. They've fallen on challenging times that have led them to bad decisions. But that doesn't mean they're bad people. They just need maybe some guidance. Programs like the Father program that we saw, Chief Judge, and some of the different programming and this has been my issue, is that I'd love to sit with you, Vice Chairwoman, and the manager and really work on, and Commissioner Jung and I can recount some of that data that we've seen effective. And I have to give a huge round of applause and my hats off and thanks to not only the leadership at the Washoe County Sheriff's Office for embracing that in the last 4 years, but putting time and energy and money into it. And it's not just the inmates, it's the staff
a lot of the time the staff aren't properly prepared and trained to do that. And the sheriff and your team have done a tremendous job on trying to educate and really change the mentality and the perspective of how we address these care. And we've got great partners with NAFCare. We have great partners within the community that are really trying to address this, but it's very siloed. So we still need to do a collective of the stakeholders to really identify how we can best spend the money the most efficient ways to really be cost saving and effective without continuing to just do the same old thing that we've always done, and really try to be innovative with the process of how we move forward. So I want to thank all of you. I think your continued commitment to this process is huge, and I hope that this commission continues to make that a priority in an ongoing fashion, because it really is a cornerstone of changing how we address these issues within our community. So it's eye-opening when you can really see some of the efficacy and how this really works. And you know, also our business and our downtown Reno partnership bids can be very functional in regards to helping align people with employment and housing and different things like that. If properly instituted, can be impactful. So this is an all hands on deck, and I know Chief Judge Simons is the chair currently of the CJAC community, and she also shares that same mentality. So Chief Calvert, thank you for coming today. The data is fantastic, and hopefully we can continue these conversations on more of a global scale, and happy to participate in those conversations and really try to establish those long-lasting programs that we'll see continue to mature for decades to come. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lucy. Thank you for your leadership on this, and I know that we'll continue the dialogue.
Yes.
Thank you for your time.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Hartung.
can I jump in real quickly here, because I think that Commissioner Lucy and Commissioner Jung have brought up some very important salient points, and we're about to lose well over 20 years of institutional knowledge. And I know how hard Commissioner Lucy has worked on this, and the trips and the tours and really applying a process called first principles thinking. And they've done a great job. And first principles thinking, if you're not familiar with that, is basically the practice of actively questioning every assumption you think you know about a given problem, and then creating new knowledge bases and new solutions from scratch. And I think that's through the courts and through the commission, that's really what's happened. And so I would be highly supportive. Bob, if you want to jump into this before you leave, and Kitty, if you guys want to jump into this, I mean, I would be highly supportive of coming up with some processes of you guys, working on this so that we can continue the path forward. And I think and Commissioner Jung, you are spot on. We're going to have to rethink how we have funded the jail. We're going to have to rethink it. And I have been a huge proponent of creating a line item on the tax bill so that people know what they're spending and they know what they're getting, and there's accountability that way, as opposed to just dipping into a general fund and hoping that we can continue forward and do things the way that we've always done. And I don't think it's a more expensive endeavor. I think it's just a different way to fund it regionally. So I just think there's a different thought process. But Chief Deputy Caldwell, I do have a question for you and potentially our staff. Are we keeping track of the folks that have been associated with the CARES campus that are also visiting, I'm going to say, or in the detention facility from time to time?
Chairman, you're going to have to probably repeat your question for Chief Deputy. He was having a sidebar with Chief Justice.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Are we keeping track? Thank you. Are we keeping track of the folks who have been in the detention facility that are also we're working with at the CARES campus?
No.
Really?
So we don't have a roster of who's at the CARES campus, or we don't have that data. We don't collect or maintain CARES campus residency.
Okay.
Well,
Is that
I
what
think
you're
Commissioner Hartung asked a great question because I think there is opportunity for partnership. Dana, who is in our audience today, is working on that data collection, and I think we can help get you connected on how we
Certainly.
can figure out how to collect that, because I think that there's opportunity there, and Chairman Hartung brings up a really great question. So. Especially because now all these things are being operated by the county, I think that we can figure out how to better collect the data and work together. So,
And again, Madam Chair, it's keeping that warm handoff going,
100%.
keeping them moving forward in the right direction, keeping them on track, holding them accountable. And it's not to track them so much and try to figure out, this sort of big brother scenario. It really is if we're having mental health issues and there's this crossover, how do we really approach that? And so again, I would love to see Commissioners Lucy and Commissioner Jung work on this and maybe come up with some thoughts of how we can move forward prior to them leaving, because there's a huge wealth of knowledge that we're about to lose.
Yes, absolutely. And any support we can give, and I'm just so proud to be on this board because I think that we are looking outside of the box and seeing how we can help our community members in the best way. And you're not alone with the data collection. I don't want you to feel called out. There are many other organizations in town that we're working with, but this is a great opportunity to start that work. So, and any other questions by the commissioners?
No, thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the time.
Absolutely.
Madam Chairwoman,
Oh, yes.
sorry.
Go ahead, Commissioner Jung.
Just to expand upon Chairman Hartung's thought about the data points, I think this is also something you're going to need to demonstrate to the public when you go out to ask for anything more or put it on their tax bill, which why can't we do that? We should do that this November. We should put that on our list of things to do. That's very easy for the county to fund. Our own made, this is how much of your tax goes here. This is what it means. But I think you're going to need it in the future to say that we've moved the data point, right? The frequent flyers are no longer flying, or maybe they are, and this is how we responded to it, and this is the better practice to get that. But as much data legally you can collect, I go on and on about data. Data is worth millions of dollars by tech companies. That's why they give us free Facebook and Instagram and all that. But we need the data because that arms you guys to make the case, whatever it is, when you need to do the rebuild and the changing the way we're looking at everything. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll speak for myself. I'm happy to throw some things together and just say, I think these are the next best actions. But I'll do anything you need for the rest of my life while I'm around here to help with anything in Washoe County. I don't need to be in office, and you can always check me out from the data that I have. Always, always, always for free. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jung. That's awesome. And we will be leaning on both of you. Okay, well, thank you again for your time, and we'll be taking a tour soon and see you at your next presentation.
You're all welcome always.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Manager, can you lead us into item 5?
Item 5 is commissioners, county managers, announcements, reports, and updates to include boards and commissions updates, requests for information, or topics for future agendas.
Mr. Manager, do you have anything for us?
I do, Madam Chair. I have a few items. First, I'm very pleased to report to the board that, as you will recall, on June 1st, we opened our ARPA Community Reinvestment Grant Program to allow nonprofit organizations in our region to benefit from the ARPA funding the county has received. And the filing window closed on the 15th, I believe. We received 77 requests that we are in the process of reviewing, and those requests total over $22 million, far exceeding the $4 million that this board earmarked for the program. So we will have our hands full going through the requests, and it appears they run the full gamut in terms of amounts that these organizations are asking for. So I'm pleased about that because it says that we've hit a nerve, and we'll come back to you once we've had a chance to review the request and discuss what the next steps are. Second thing is we just launched the Washoe County Leadership Academy, and this is the inaugural Leadership Academy. I'm sorry. We're accepting applications for participation through August 1st. It's an 8-month leadership program in conjunction with the University of Nevada, Reno. It's cooperative extension, and it's aimed at providing leadership training and civic engagement to Washoe County residents. We've already received over 100 applications for that program. So staff will be sitting with commissioners once we have closed it to kind of advise you who's applied in your district, and that will be a difficult process. The quality of some of the applicants is amazing. Next, I just want to confirm that we will be having a concurrent meeting with the City of Reno and the City of Sparks councils. That will occur this Friday at 1 o'clock. It is a virtual meeting for all of the elected officials participating. For any individuals who wish to provide public comment, the location of the meeting is here in Chambers starting at 1 o'clock this Friday. And the topics, as you know, are to discuss regionalization of fire, EMS, and dispatch, as well as the proposed revised name of the Washoe County Health District. Finally, I would just like to personally thank Chief Don Pelt of the Pyramid Lake Paiute Tribe. Last Friday evening, I had the privilege of addressing the Tribal Council. As you all will recall, you approved an interlocal agreement with the tribe to provide fire and EMS services to Gerlach. This is something that hasn't happened in recent memory. Commissioner Herman could probably tell you better than anybody. And I'm pleased to report that the Tribal Council did approve the agreement as well. And Chief Pelt informed me we were deploying folks the next morning to Gerlach. So thanks to Chief Pelt, he really stood up for us and did some things he didn't have to do, and we appreciate it. That's it, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Do commissioners have any announcements? Any announcements by Commissioner Herman? Okay, Commissioner Lucy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have a few brief updates on the current boards that I sit on, and some discussions and some comments this morning. First, I want to kind of lead off with the updates from meetings last week. I'll start with RTC and bring this up for those. Currently, Chairman Hartung and myself serve on RTC. And last week, we did move forward with a couple of things that I wanted to make sure that the general public are aware of. We did update our Washoe RTC TOPS plan, which otherwise as in the speak of government through our acronyms is referred to as the Transit Optimization Plan Strategies, and this is for future years of 23 through 2027. Certain routes were adjusted and changed to continue to maximize ridership on both our ride programs, our flex ride programs, and our access programs. There were changes to some routes and how we will be addressing some different issues. The commission did bring forth some asks for some policy changes in regards to how do we reach out to some of our harder commuter areas within the county, i.e. Cold Springs, i.e. Spanish Springs, South Meadows, and some of the more outlying areas to provide people quicker access to both of our downtown cores in the city of Sparks and city of Reno. So there are some changes with that, which is fantastic that we will see, and hopefully we see some benefit of that. There was discussion about, through that TOPS plan and our master plan, on updating the Washoe RTC technology and applications so that individuals can not only order rides, purchase bus passes, and a number of different things to bring forth challenges, but so that they know waiting times at the buses, if there's buses are going to be delayed or where those buses lie. So we're hoping to see some of that technology optimization through cloud-based technology and hopefully in the months or year to come. And so please, if you have any challenges or ride the bus frequently, that is something that you might want to look into. Also, one of the big things that I did want to point out, we are continuing to work with the University of Nevada, Reno on the microtransit, micromobility pilot project in downtown Reno. We've been working on it. It's been in existence in Sparks, and we've seen some great benefit to that. So hopefully we can continue to move funds, transit funds towards that going forward to continue to push for greater ridership. Commissioner Jung, I wanted to point out that I did to ask for potential free ridership through the continued summer and through our events times on specific routes that we see higher ridership on to help during the this period of inflation that we're seeing at the gas pump that make it challenging for those of our community that are on fixed incomes and challenged with the ability for transit. We know transit is a massive is of great importance to many individuals to get food home, to their doctor's appointments, a number of different things. So we are working on it and hope to bring back some sort of a program or some flexibility for seniors, for veterans, and for all the community to do that in some of our higher traffic areas. Chairman Hartung, I wanted to reiterate that during our discussion with NDOT, after our last board meeting in regards to certain developments that lie within the outer areas of Pyramid about traffic safety and speeding and another request. So I don't want you to feel that due to your absence that your comments and sentiments weren't shared again to NDOT about the improvements along Pyramid Highway, past Calle de la Plata, out towards Horizon View and Ingenuity, and on to the outreaching areas about signalization of Pyramid Highway. We did discuss the Mount Rose corridor and the safety along Mount Rose corridor with the state. And hopefully seeing some improvements between Incline Village and Reno to improve that corridor for safety improvements that may include roundabouts on State Route 431 at certain intersections, or potentially new alignments for signalization that we have to work with our county staff to address. So those should be continually working on with our staff and RTC staff to address that. One challenge that RTC said that they are seeing is that they need probably a stronger point of contact with the county in regards to who Director Thomas should be directing some of those comments directly to. So Manager Brown, if you could reach out to Director Thomas and identify some paths of least resistance to work on some of those programs as we've identified here, from the transfer of the state roads to the county, so for improvements and ongoing maintenance, and also safety issues, because it is a top priority of Director Swallow. But she and Director Thomas, there seems to be sometimes challenges for communication back and forth about programming and timelines, so that those can be they can move cohesively together. So we'll work on. Hopefully we can work on that. Secondly, at RSCVA, some wonderful things happened at RSCVA. We did elect new leadership at the RSCVA. I no longer, after 7 years of tenure as their chair of that board, I have finally stepped down as chair, and we have elected, I shouldn't say all that time, Mayor Sheevy did serve as chair for a period of a year in that, but Councilwoman Charlene Bybee is now the chair of that, and Mayor Sheevy is the vice chair of the RSCVA now. And we've got some great programming. And I think one of the big topics that came into discussion out of the strategic plan and the master plan for RSCVA is to move away from the Reno Sparks Capital C Convention and Visitors Authority without losing focus on convention business to our community, but focusing on more the organic visitor, the tourism side, to really help with and hopefully thrust Reno Sparks Convention Visitors Authority into more of that redevelopment of both of our downtowns, and truly create an identity for the community in which we can sell our area. Very much like Savannah, Georgia, very much like Omaha, Nebraska, Houston, Texas. They have their identities that draw people to the community for many of the wonderful things that surround, even in our own state, White Pine County. I had through the opportunity to NACO visit there, and they've really evolved, and it's more around business development and the challenges that they're seeing, from infrastructure needs to housing needs, and to overall growth, how that they can evolve. And even in a small county of White Pine, they're trying to improve an identity or shift their identity so that they are more attractive to today's visitor. So I think that is one thing. We're no longer the divorce capital. The biggest little city may not mean everything to everybody, or it's happening here in Sparks. We really need to focus on what is our identity and how can we work collectively together to entice individuals to visit our community and participate in many of the wonderful things around our community, not just the events and the conventions, but Virginia City, our beautiful Sierras, our beautiful Truckee River. We're very fortunate to have one of the most beautiful rivers that, for sportsmen and dining aficionados and whatnot to truly come here. So RCVA is making a shift to make that a new focus for them. So I'm happy to see that coming forward. I did have a conversation with the executive team at the health district in regards to a potential of planning and how we can potentially streamline and create more efficiencies with planning as it pertains to commercial and residential planning, and tried to keep that with each individual municipality, so that when the public, whether a resident or a commercial developer, is coming in trying to move through the planning process, that it stays wholly with one person. We've done a great job with Acela, but it still will take more to identify some of those pathways forward to create those efficiencies. So I did have those initial conversations with the health district, and hopefully Assistant County Manager Mr. Solero and Manager Brown can continue to work with the health district officer to identify some of those potential benefits of streamlining that process and keeping those planning processes with a singular point of contact versus having that bounce back and forth between TUMWA, the health district, the fire department, and our engineering staff, which makes it sometimes discombobulated and difficult for the general public to do that. I want to say thank you to Nancy Lewinhagen, our comms director, and Candy and Mark and Alex Alexander for all of their works on the Leadership Academy. This has blossomed out of the initiation of Washoe 311 and our strategic plan from almost 6 years ago that this commission minted to continue to educate the general public about what we do here at the county, not just as commissioners, but for everybody, so that when these meetings are attended, that there is a global understanding of everything that the county has an impact on. And I think sometimes that's been lost because of just immediate fires and issues. And this will help individuals understand the complexities that go into everyday policy making that the commissioners do, that staff have to incur to achieve these challenges moving forward. And then lastly, one thing that I would hope this commission continues to work on, and we'll hear more about it from Chief Judge, is that we continue to work with the judiciary on growing our community outreach, and that from justice court to planning, and Vice Chair, you and I have worked diligently to improve those services in Incline Village, but I think there is potential benefit for us to do this collectively through our community, as we are now at that breaking point of 500,000 people in our community and $1 billion budget, to allow that access to our government system, so people have more of a one-stop shop and some efficiencies through that. So I know we talked about it at our strategic plan this year about doing a audit of our assets that the county holds, from physical assets such as locations and buildings, but how can we more efficiently utilize our holdings to do better outreach to our community and identify personnel that need to be in communication with the public on an everyday basis and those that do not, and how do we efficiently reach those individuals. So I look forward to that, and hopefully get an update in the months to come. And then lastly, I did have an opportunity, and Mr. Stewart brought that up in Wildfire. This weekend, I took a road trip up through Northern California and took the long way home from Susanville and Red Bluff, and came down through where the Dixie Fire did have an impact last year. And to drive through Greenville and see a town decimated by a wildfire, schools, buildings completely burned to the ground, years of timber that are just decimated by wildfire. We need to be cognizant of our resources and the challenges and dangers that lie in front of us. Water is a gold standard for us. If you travel to Eagle Lake right now, it's at an all-time low. Places that I grew up at, water skiing, you can walk across now, that are now dry flats. Lakes that are disappearing. Water isn't readily available, and we have fire danger in historic forests. For those that were here during the Belli Ranch fire and many fires that burned down the Truckee Canyon between Truckee and Reno years ago, I knew as a kid growing up, traveling to Truckee and up to the mountains, that you'd see beautiful forests along there that now have young growth. But those forests take, hundreds, decades, millenniums to regrow to their once previous beauty. And wildfire is a serious thing that we need to address. So to be fire smart and fire safe, especially in these summer months with these dry lightning storms and potential that we have, we need to be cognizant of that and what we can do to make sure that we ensure the safety of our public, but also the safety of our environment. And for those that view our community as beautiful as it is, I, for one, love being in the trees. It's something that's very moving for individuals. So I'd like to see that from a policy standpoint, where we can work together collectively as a region to address fire safety, as we can, what we can do to make sure that our community is constantly safe and move in those directions. So thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Those are my comments and my updates for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lucy. Now to folks on the phone, Chairman Hartung.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to thank everyone for covering for me these last few weeks. I really appreciate it. And I want to bring up something, and I think you hit on something very important, Commissioner Lucy. My comments towards NDOT were not meant to be censorious. That's not really. I'm not trying to find fault with them constantly. It really comes back to a frustration level where we've seen throughout the region huge amounts of growth. And so perhaps what we need to do, Mr. Manager, is maybe Commissioner Lucy and I need to sit down with Mr. Solero, with Mr. Smith, with you, and come up with a process that RTC can utilize and understand where our growth potentially is happening, so that we can get in front of some of these needs. And it's not so much to pre-develop these roads, but to say when the growth is actually occurring, how do we approach our infrastructure so that everything is timed properly? Because right now in Spanish Springs, Mount Rose Highway, and other areas throughout the region, we're so far behind the curve, it's not even funny. So maybe that's something that we need to look at in the future, Mr. Manager, to come up with some type of a matrix to say we've got this is on, and it's not just approved, not built, but it's things that prior to submission of tentative maps and et cetera, where we know that this growth is occurring and we need to respond through transportation and transit infrastructure. So I appreciate the time, Bob, that you've spent with all of this stuff. You've done a phenomenal job of keeping tabs on, especially the transit issues and the microtransit stuff. So I'm very appreciative of that, and that's going to be a game changer for us ultimately. Is the flex ride or the microtransit. So that could also help us to offset some of the traffic issues, because right now, as we all know, in these outlying areas, there is no other way to ingress, egress. You have to use a car. So maybe we've dropped the ball, and we need to look at it from a different perspective. So, Mr. Manager, I look forward to having that conversation. Thank you. And that's all I have, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Jung.
Hi there. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I just wanted to say to the team, starting with Mr. Brown and then to Communications Director Lewinhagen and her team, I'm forgetting Bethany's last name now, but Bethany, you know who I'm talking to, and Ms. Wilson, Ms. Ramos, and Mr. Delatorre, and back to Commissioner Lucy, who started this Leadership Academy. I'm blown away. Over 100 applicants. This is going to be probably the most transformative tool that this board is going to use into the future to create a citizenry that is not only engaged and connected, but well informed of how the processes and policies work here and scope of work. And you know what the most important thing is that you can do with your community advisory boards is, again, those are the people that go out and explain things to the rest of the people who they are neighbors with or go to church with and all of those other things. So this investment, I would keep track of this. I can predict a lot of variables that will be changed with just, and I'm not saying just because this was a heavy, heavy lift, and to do it through UNR. And again, that was Commissioner Lucy who said cooperative extension should be involved in this. It's in their best interest, by the way, we fund them. And this will be the most transformative thing that this board does. Let me just put that on there for doing this long. This is going to transform not only the citizen engagement and knowledge, but also the quality and preparedness, like a CAB has done for the chairman. It's the preparedness for any sort of civic engagement that anybody wants to do, whether it's a job in government, whether it's running for office. I mean, I don't think anybody is going to realize what this is going to do for your citizenry and for you to work together as a whole region and team pulling in the same direction. So well done. Hats off. Over 100 applicants is unheard of, especially during the summer. I heard it on KUNR twice and was very impressed with even the announcement. And so I just can't say it. I'm blown away. And not because I didn't have faith. It's just that, you know, this wasn't my baby to usher through. This was Lucy's baby. And it really did. And Mr. Brown's too. It really did. It really is turning into something that this whole board could be very proud of. So I'm looking forward to what this does do. And I've already speculated for you what I think it's going to do for this community. So well done. Fine use of our resources, fine use of where we're putting salary and our priorities as a community. That says a lot to the citizens who are, if they're not paying attention, you just got over 100 people that have told you, I want to learn. So it says a lot about this community too, which makes me super duper proud that you found a market niche and you've presented it. And when you've given me updates, I've been blown away every single time. So this is such a spark. I think it's going to transform local government. It's going to transform the way we speak to each other and again, that 2 and 2 will become 4. And that's most important when we're trying to figure out problems. We have to identify and be honest about it. So well done, Mr. Brown. I hope that's in your accomplishments folder for October, because this is just better than I dreamed it would turn out to be. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And yes, I'm so excited about the Leadership Academy. And I agree with Commissioner Jung that Commissioner Lucy has been such a leader to see how UNR could get involved and just really challenging the staff to make it an incredible program. I have had numerous people ask me, how much does it cost? I'm like, it's free. And they can't believe it because it is going to be a lot of amazing field trips around town. So I'm very excited. And really, this is the time that we as local government need to do as much as we can to build trust with our citizenry, because it is a tough time right now. I have a few things that I'm hoping staff can help me with. This commission had a public hearing in Mogul, and there were major concerns about railroad crossings. And I have some connections with Union Pacific, but I would like to see if there's other public safety issue railroad crossings in Washoe County that we need to bring up to them and see what kind of permissions we need for warnings or flashers or any investment we need to do for public safety, especially as these more rural areas become a bit more urban and more trafficked. So I'd love some help with that. The Mobility Hub Committee for Incline Village has been canceled for the 25th, but we'll be meeting again August 29th. So please put that on your calendars if you're interested. I have the Incline Village Crystal Bay Cab coming up on August 1st. And to Commissioner Lucy's point, I really do think there's opportunities for us to do some outreach on fire. We have so many areas in Washoe County that are in the WUI, the wildland urban interface. And I think there's opportunities for us to figure out how these communities can either become fire adaptive communities through cooperative extension or other opportunities. So I appreciate Mr. Stewart bringing that up to the board, and I'm hoping staff can help us figure out a way we can work together on that. And then I'm very excited that RCBA is really looking at a destination management versus marketing organization. Commissioner Lucy, thank you for your leadership on that, because I think there's a lot of opportunity for them to invest in the community and see how they can make it better. So those are my comments, and I appreciate everyone for your patience hearing all of that. And Commissioner Lucy, could you please lead us into item 6, donations?
Madam Vice Chair, it would be my pleasure to do that for you this morning. So item 6 this morning is our donations. And once again, I want to lead off. We can't do all of the business within Washoe County without some of these gracious donations from the community investment and our partners. So item 6A1 is a recommendation to acknowledge various one-time and in-kind gift donations estimated in a value of $2,474.43 from the Reno Rodeo Foundation, accepted by the Second Judicial Court, and to support the Reading Room Project during the months of April and June. The Reno Rodeo is obviously one of the favorite events that we host here, and this would be the 103rd year that we've had the Reno Rodeo, and their continued commitment. And to the Reading Room Project, I can't tell you how this is so impactful for many of those children that go through our family court and our justice court and the Second Judicial Court, giving them an opportunity to get away maybe from their familial problems and spend some time in a peaceful room at the Second Judicial Court. And I want to thank Amber Howell and her staff, and also the Second Judicial Court, for all of their willingness to continue to move this project forward. It's phenomenal. 6B1 is a recommendation to acknowledge various items donated totaling an estimated market value of $4,841.64 and accept donations from various donors to the Washoe County Human Services Agency Child Protective Services Fund to support welfare activities in the amount of $2,140, retroactive for the period of March 26, 2022 through June 30th, 2022. These donations continue to help those challenged individuals that might find themselves in difficult situations. And those donations mean every dollar means more than you know to some of these families and some of the most vulnerable populations within our community. So I want to thank those members of our community that have donated to them. 6B2 is a recommendation to acknowledge a donation of 300 backpacks and notebooks and supplies from Henry Schein Incorporated to Washoe County Human Services to support welfare activities, totaling an estimated market value of $12,000, retroactive to June 2nd, 2022. These 300 backpacks are going to be used completely and diligently to those children that need maybe supplies going into the new school year. And every year it's a wonderful event to see these children receive those backpacks and prepare, and it gives a semblance of of normalcy in their life that may not be in existence. So I want to thank Henry Schein for that donation of those backpacks. 6C1 is a recommendation to accept the donation of 2006 Advanced Containment Systems Mobile Decontainment Shower, valued at $104,000 from the Washoe County Honorary Deputies Association to the Washoe County Sheriff's Office Special Operations Division. Once again, this is just a showing of how committed our employees at the Sheriff's Office and our Deputies Association is to continually giving back to our community and to our systems so that we can provide the best systems possible. And with that, Madam Chair, that concludes our donations for today, and that is in the form of a motion, Madam Chair.
Can I please get a second? Thank you. Commissioner Herman Beecham, Mr. Chairman. And before we take a vote, do we have any public comment?
Madam Chair, we do. We have Elise Weatherly speaking on 6A1.
Hi, Elise Weatherly. I was going to say a just fabulous no to all of these donations only because of my history in this community. I gave away so much money, and then I found out, ooh, we weren't on the same page. But what I like today is follow-up, legal opinion, accountability. When we give stuff away, we shouldn't just go, well, you know, I've done my brownie points for the day. We're good now. We should actually follow up to see if what we expected to happen with those donations has actually happened, right? Is that too much to ask for? As far as I know, I can jump ahead a little bit. The Honorary Deputies Association, what I would like to see are some awards given to certain people in Washoe County, like Judge Egan Walker. My grandson reminded me that he thought I had something against him. I said, I did the way he treated the situation with Marvin Neal, but he gets a thumbs up from me. I was wrong, and he was right. And Assistant District Attorney Travis Lucia, I think he should have a gold star planted on him. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's nobody else signed in.
Okay, with the motion by Commissioner Lucy and a second by Commissioner Herman, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Hearing none, I think that carries unanimously. Okay, before we go into our consent items, I did forget to mention that on item 15, our public hearing, we received a request from the appellant to remove this item from today's agenda, and this will be brought back in August. So I'm going to be pulling that item. I just wanted to make that clear for anyone in the audience who is waiting. Sorry, I didn't say that earlier. So now we are moving to consent. Do we have any changes on the consent calendar?
We do. Item 7C1 is pulled from the agenda for additional staffing.
Thank you very much. So with removing 7C1, do I have a motion to approve the consent?
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as posted with the removal of 7C1.
Yes.
Should we call for public comment prior to the motions on these items?
We will before we take our vote. Yes, thank you for the reminder. I sometimes need it. So we have a motion on the consent calendar from Commissioner Lucy. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, from Commissioner Herman. And now we will go to public comment.
We have on item 7C3, Elise Weatherly.
Hi, Elise Weatherly. First of all, thank you for pulling the one that you just did. I think you're right. It needs to be looked at. Anyway, all I will say is that I have a toggling here with marijuana. One of the guys that I used to work in IT with so many years ago, smart guy, does a lot of marijuana. And as a result, he's kind of lazy. That's all I have to say. Thanks.
Next up on item 7D1, we have Holly Acock.
Thank you so much, and good morning or almost afternoon. I'm the Northern Nevada Children's Cancer Foundation Executive Director, and I wanted to thank the Commission for supporting the Northern Nevada Children's Cancer Foundation over the years. All of our cancer warriors benefit from what you guys have done for us. The money that you've donated goes directly to our families. When a family calls our office, we can say we can help. They do not have to think about their bills at home, their household expenses, their rent and mortgage. They merely need to concentrate on their child. And for that, I thank you.
Thank you. And Commissioner Lucy has a comment.
Thank you. Ms. Acock, just if you will stay at the podium. I want to point out in 7D1 for those of you who not on the agenda or can't see the agenda, This is a distribution from Chairman Hartung's Commission Special District Funds in the amount of $20,000. His continued dedication to the Nevada Children's Cancer Foundation is paramount. He believes in it wholeheartedly. He has continued to serve not only many of the nonprofits in our community that are medically focused, but his true passion does lie with the Nevada Children's Cancer Foundation and all the work that you do. I know he is a tremendous advocate and has always done this. And many times you thank the commission, but more often than not, it's Commissioner or Chairman Hartung that really leads that charge in those donations. So I want to make sure that we point that out, that those district funds are coming directly from him for the association and for the foundation. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Lucy. I appreciate that you brought that up, and we appreciate your generosity, Commissioner Hartung, and thank you for your work.
Thank you.
In our town. Okay.
Madam Chair, can
Yes.
I just make a quick comment as to how important this is, and this is really not about me so much as it is about the commission supporting these kinds of efforts in the community. When you have a sick child, you go into fight mode and you don't know which way to turn, and you're focused on trying to get that child back to well. Or a family member for that matter. It really doesn't matter, but in this particular case, it happens to be children fighting cancer. And so I think we're called to do these kinds of things for our community, because this is really about our community and people in our community who are in the struggle of their lives. And so I'm thankful for the commission hopefully supporting this. And I'm thankful for the Children's Cancer Foundation for all the hard work that they do, coming beside these folks who, again, are in the fight of their life and they have no idea which way to turn. And that support and that advocacy is so very important. So thank you so much, Ms. Wilburn, for the work that you guys are doing. And I'm thankful.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Lucy and a second by Commissioner Herman. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Not hearing any. All right, that motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Now we will go into our regular agenda. Commissioner Lucy, do you have a block vote for us?
I do, Madam Chair. And this morning, I want to put into recommendation that we block items 9, 10, 13, and 14 this morning for consideration of a block.
Okay. With that, is that a motion?
It is in the form of a motion, Madam.
Wonderful. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Hartung. We will read those items. Well, first we'll do public comment. Is there any public comment on those items?
There is. On item 9, we have Elise Weatherly.
Hello, Elise Weatherly. Since it's blocked, I guess I don't have to go into it too much, but all I will say is that the food I test out everything, right? I check it out. I experiment with everything. I went over to test out their food because I was now old enough to be able to, and I found two things. They didn't mandate the $2. It was a suggestion, and they went from really good food to really bad food. That's all I have to report. Thanks.
On item 10, we have Elise Weatherly.
Well, since this has been blocked too, all I will say is the mental health thing is one of the hardest things for me to grasp. I have been accused of having to do anger management, because I get so mad when things are done wrong. But is that a mental health issue, or is that like an accountability issue? Is that because I want things to be done right? I know how to do it, and I should expect others to do it. Is that a mental health problem? All I will ask this board to do is don't just think that if somebody doesn't go along with what you think things are right and what should be done, don't accuse them of having mental health problems. Is that fair enough? Fair enough. Thanks.
That is everybody signed in for the block vote.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Mr. Manager, will you please read those items into the record for us?
Item 9, excuse me, is a Human Services Agency recommends to accept an FY22 Nutritional Services Incentive Program subaward amendment from the state of Nevada Aging and Disability Services Division in the amount of $202,149 with no county match, as outlined in the staff report. Item 10 is a Human Services Agency recommends to accept an FY23 Victims of Crime Act or VOCA grant award from the State of Nevada Division of Child and Family Services in the amount of $879,493 with no county match, as outlined in the staff report. Item 13 is Sheriff's Office recommends to accept a receipt of a direct grant award, $238,382, no county match required, from the Bureau of Justice Assistance State Criminal Alien Assistance Program to the Washoe County Sheriff's Office Detention Bureau, as outlined in the staff report. And item 14 is the Sheriff's Office recommends to accept the Epidemiology and Laboratory Capacity Subaward, amount not to exceed $279,246, no county match required, as administered through the State of Nevada Department of Health and Human Services to purchase COVID-19 test kits, personal protective equipment, and Phase Plus matching recognition system as outlined in the staff report.
Those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
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 Thank you. Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries unanimously. We'll now go into item 8.
Item 8 is an alternative sentencing recommends to accept the Bureau of Behavioral Health, Wellness and Prevention Subaward from the Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Public and Behavioral Health for the amount not to exceed $439,487, no county match required, as outlined in the staff report. And here in chambers is Justin Roper.
Good morning, and thank you for that. Good morning, Madam Vice Chair, Chairman, members of the Commission. Again, I am Justin Roper. I'm the Chief of the Department of Alternative Sentencing. We had asked to have some time this morning because we wanted to talk about this when we're asking you to accept this grant that we had reached out for. And I guess we're fortuitous because this is just a continuation of a conversation that we've already had. This is everybody within the county is looking for ways that we can better serve our community. And that includes probation, which is alternative sentencing. You know, it's no longer black and white, either they're in compliance and they're not. We are really looking at what are those underlying conditions and how can we assist them and provide them the treatment that they need and the services that they need to address those underlying conditions and hopefully never see them again in an adversarial role. We're excited about this grant and the possibility it brings to us. I brought Sergeant Shabandi. He's going to walk you through it. He's really has been the leader of this. Him and his team have taken the reins on this and are moving forward. So I would like him to come up and present what we hope to achieve with this.
Good morning. For the record, my name is Andrew Shabandi. I'm a sergeant with the Department of Alternative Sentencing. Over the last year, we've been developing the Support and Treatment Accountability and Recovery Program, or STAR for short. STAR is intended to address opioid use disorder and criminogenic activity and behaviors in the population DAS serves. The program team, composed of a probation officer, a clinician, a case manager, and 2 peer support specialists, will take these people on, administer in-house evidence-based interventions through the Courage to Change interactive journaling system, and also work with our community partners, Northern Nevada Hopes, who is committed to providing MAT services for our opioid use clientele, Crossroads, which is committed to 10 beds through their men's campus, as well as MAT services through WellCare, and the Empowerment Center for our female clientele that need housing and services as well. There are 4 phases to the program, which I'll walk you through in a brief manner. First is the support phase, which is all about stabilization. As we receive these people, often they're still coming down from whatever the substance is. They need help. They have barriers to success, which we want to address. So in that stabilization period, we'll set them up with their MAT services, get them established with a counselor, and address any housing or any other services that are in the way of receiving these the program curricula and overlying goals. At the end of the support phase, we'll move into the treatment phase, which is intended to take care of the underlying issue. We'll provide counseling, MAT services, and the evidence-based curricula that I described before during that treatment phase of the program. After treatment, we move into accountability. At the accountability phase of the program, we want to see them demonstrating the skills that they've learned through the program. Show me that you understand what you need to do and that you're willing to do it, and we'll help you get there. After accountability, we move into recovery. At this point, they've completed the curricula with us. Their counselor is recommending that they be released from treatment, and they're in compliance with all their conditions of supervision. At that point, at roughly a 1-year mark, we will recommend discharge from probation as long as they've hit all of those benchmarks. It's a soft 12-month program, and what I mean by that is we often see our participants fall off near the end of programming. Once the resources and the support start to fall away, self-sabotaging behavior tends to take place. So near the end, we reinforce. They meet with the team more. We see them more at their house. We provide whatever they need to make sure that they can continue on and be successful once the probation department is no longer involved. We're very excited about this program, like Chief Roper said, and I believe this grant is going to be a foot in the door to provide the services that were discussed earlier with Chief Deputy Caldwell, the soft handoff that we're trying to figure out. I think that DAS can be an active member of that, and I think that this program is a great way to make sure we're supporting the people of Washoe County, not just while they're incarcerated or on probation, but beyond. So thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for that presentation, and I'm very excited about this program. Cannot wait to see the data. As you heard, we're all data geeks here and want to see what the outcomes are, but I'll go turn it over to my fellow commissioners, see if they have any questions. I have Commissioner Lucy first.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do. First of all, Chief Roper, Deputy Dishabandi, you guys have done a phenomenal job, and I think this is exactly what we spoke about earlier today. This is part of that inclusionary process in regards to providing that programming, and sometimes difficult decisions need to be made, and people make challenging decisions in their life, but it's the two of you in your department that really allow for that reemergence into society in a positive manner, and it's through this type of process that'll help them, and I couldn't be more supportive of this. We did receive funding, or will continue to receive funding from our opioid lawsuit, and I hope that those dollars continue to go to not only your program, but the judiciary and also to human services to continue to build upon these programs that you have started to kickstart these programs, and that the county continues to balance that as well. So thank you both for all of your work. You've done a phenomenal job. You make us look amazing up here by all the stuff you do behind the scenes. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you for that. Commissioner Herman, do you have anything? Anyone on the phone?
No, Madam Chairman, just very supportive. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chairwoman, I would like to bring to your attention and the board's attention as well that one of the providers and vendors of this is the Change Companies. And I don't know if any of you have done any deep dive on them, but they are based in Carson City, which you know we love that. It's Northern Nevada. Ran by 2 PhDs, and they do all kinds of training programs, but I think it's terrific. And I want to say kudos for using some homegrown here rather than, whoever lives 100 miles away has to be the expert. So I want you to, if you get a chance, look into this company. It's really cool, and it's wildly successful, and it has been for decades. So well done, Justin Roper, and thanks for being part of pulling in the same direction that this board is wanting to pull when it comes to quality of life for every citizen. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jung. And I would just like to add that we would love to hear what other barriers you're finding for success for these folks. I'm assuming housing has got to be a barrier. We can't expect to teach, I read this in an article recently, you can't expect to teach someone to swim while they're drowning. You actually have to give them a life vest. And so we can't expect folks to be successful in treatment if they're not in stable housing. And I know that that's something we're working on, but perhaps you can give us any input on that while you're going through the program, or any thoughts today.
No, and I appreciate that, and you're absolutely correct. And, this is throughout the community, and you're well aware of it. These partnerships that we were able to develop, though, they are moving towards that more sustainable housing. And so we will continue to support them in their efforts in that direction, as well as you, the commission, in your efforts to get that sustainable housing for this population. So, and we will
Wonderful.
report back to you.
Well, and thank you for taking the initiative to apply for the grant, and we're really excited to help support you however we can. And
Thank you very much.
thank you. Okay, great presentation. Does anyone have a motion they'd like to make?
Madam Chair, if I may, I'd like to move that we approve item 8, the alternative sentencing grant, to the tune of $439 and $487.
Thank you very much.
Second that.
Second from Commissioner Herman. Public comment, Madam Clerk.
We have Elise Weatherly.
Hi, Elise Weatherly. I think I already talked about this, but I don't know how to go off the page a little bit. At some point, after you've given it enough time and tries, like what I did with my daughter, you just have to say, you have to write a song called Your Chances Are All Gone. And you don't feel guilty that you weren't able to rescue your own daughter. You just go, I tried everything I could. When my daughter finally said, I like to drink, I went, oh, and then she ended up in jail because she liked hitting her boyfriend. There was nothing I could do about it. I felt guilty for years that it was my fault, that I wasn't a good mother, that I didn't do these things right. And I went, no, that's just the way she is. All right, so I don't know if I'm going off on that or not, but it has to do with mental health. I tried to tell my daughter the truth once I finally figured it out myself, and she didn't want to hear it. She liked her lifestyle. So all I'm going to say is if you have some people that don't succeed, it's not your fault. You tried. Thank you.
Thank you.
There's nobody else signed in.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Lucy, a second by Commissioner Herman. All those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Next up, item 11.
Item 11, Manager's Office recommends to approve an agreement for professional services with Washoe County and MedHealth LLC, doing business as MedTrust LLC, to provide basic medical care for people experiencing homelessness at the Nevada Cares Campus Emergency Shelter for an amount not to exceed $519,914, with the option to renew for three one-year periods thereafter, up to $519,914 annually, as outlined in the staff report. And with us this morning, we have Dana Searcy.
Thank you.
Or Katrina. Sorry, I wasn't looking.
Good morning. I'm Katrina Peters, Data and Policy Specialist with the Washoe County Housing and Homeless Services team. We bring forward to you today a proposed contract with MedTrust to provide medical services on site at the Nevada Cares campus 7 days a week, 365 days a year. This contract will provide a registered nurse and a certified nursing assistant on site daily, in addition to 19 hours a week of an advanced practice registered nurse who can write prescriptions for participants at the Nevada Cares campus, which has been a huge need. This contract is also intended to reduce the number of calls for emergency services at the Nevada Cares campus. And I brought an overhead with some data on it. This contract is intended to reduce the number of calls for emergency services. We've been tracking this data closely. There we go. And you can see we're starting to see some slight improvements as we've brought on additional services and additional staffing at the CARES campus. We are hoping that this contract will also further reduce those calls for emergency medical services, and we will be tracking that data closely.
I'm so excited about this contract and for staff proactively seeing how we can save money, save our partners time and expense, and also best care for the residents of the CARES campus. So I think this is a huge thing to highlight for the community to see what we're doing. So thank you for your work. Are there any commissioners with comments?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Lucy.
Thank you. Katrina, thank you. You and Dana have done the yeoman's work, really. It has been, and I think this is to Chairman Hartung and Commissioner Jung's discussion. One, that accountability of trust, and two, providing those services and providing the data so that we can really see the efficacy of what's happening. And through that accountability and through the data, we're seeing that transition. And this is exactly what we need to continue to see and hope that we're fighting the right fight, not necessarily just throwing funds to anywhere, and that they're being laser focused and directed. And I can't thank you two enough for the time and energy that you've had to invest into this. This is a very complex project with a lot of information and a lot of individuals to work through. And you have done a phenomenal job. So my hat is off to you, ma'am, and both of you. Your team has done a phenomenal job. So thank you for your work. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, thank you. Any other comments by commissioners?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr.
Thank you. So staff, talk to us briefly about the participation from the 3 hospitals' emergency departments, where many of these folks would historically be treated. Are they participating monetarily in this program?
The funding for this contract is coming from our ARPA funds.
So have we talked to them about participating in this program? Because ultimately we're saving them money. And even though Renown is not for profit, is a nonprofit, that's just, I'm sorry. We still need to have their participation, because at the end of the day, we're saving them also a huge amount. And I'm highly supportive of this, but these folks would end up in the emergency departments of Renown, St. Mary's, and Northern Nevada.
We would be happy to pursue those conversations.
I mean, I think we have to, commissioners, because ARPA funds are limited. And I understand our requirements to serve the community, but I also believe that when the 3 hospitals bill, it has to do with indigent care. They're going to bill the federal government. We can save them. We can save them a lot of money. 1, and 2. It takes the pressure off of those emergency rooms where there's a certain segment of the population that's using it as their GPs. It's how they find health care. It's not a pejorative comment. It's just the truth. So I see Ms. Searcy has approached the podium. Thank you.
Madam Vice Chair, Dana Searcy, Washoe County. If I may, this contract is really focused on that initial touch point. Well, we completely agree with the point, Chair Hartung. That's our next step in this region, is how do we address medical care across all partnerships. This specific contract is focused on our boo-boos, our open sores, our emergency triage, so that we can cut the request to 911 services, so that we can save that response to for the rest of the community. We're seeing some very large numbers of response to the campus each day, and we're finding that many of those responses are things that could be handled with a nurse or a little bit of care before we get to the point of transporting somebody to the emergency room. So this is maybe the initial step, and then those conversations will continue as we move on to the greater need of continued emergency support and medical services.
And if I may, Madam Chair, Chair Hartung, you should know that conversations are taking place with all 3 hospital CEOs on a myriad of topics in terms of how the county can work more closely with them and share resources to serve our shelter and other populations. I would suggest to you, you're going to see behavioral health be the first of that, because with regards to impact on our detention center and the CARES campus and what's going on with 988, which launched last weekend, that is front and center as something that would have immediate benefit for our public safety individuals. But I don't sense that there is any resistance to a more coordinated effort with the hospitals. And I hear you loud and clear, and we'll continue to go down that road. But really, behavioral health has been the priority because of what's going on with 911 and the crisis intervention initiative.
Madam.
And
I want Chair Hartung, if I could share just a little bit of insight too in regards to your discussion about indigent care. Manager Brown and myself did participate in a meeting in regards to legislative process, and as you are well aware, there is a board, a state board that manages indigent care funds, and that is comprised of a number of individuals, not only commissioners from across the state, but medical professionals as well. And that discussion will be coming back during the legislature this upcoming year to discuss indigent care and those distribution of dollars. And I agree with you that it starts locally, and that there is a need to address some of those concerns. But those indigent care conversations are ongoing. Manager Brown has been intimately involved with the state to discuss some of that legislation and the changes that need to happen at the state level so that they are not so impactful to the counties, and that the county dollars can be better disposed of or appropriated in manners that are more conducive to a desirable outcome than, as you and I have spoken before, about more of a spray tactic, but more laser focused. So those conversations are ongoing, and that board is working on that for the next legislative session too as well.
Thank you, Commissioner Lucy. Commissioner Hartung, did you have something else?
Yeah, no, and I look, I'm thankful that we're moving this direction. I think it's imperative that we move this direction. In fact, I'm wondering when we include things like dental health, oral health, because many of these folks will ultimately land in the emergency rooms, or the emergency departments, EDs as they refer to themselves, for a toothache, and they have no way to treat it, so they treat it with drugs, with opioids and painkillers, and that's not a viable long-term solution. So I'm again highly supportive of this, but I want our regional partners to understand that this is, we all need to pull in Commissioner Jung's the way that she has spoken about it. We all need to pull the same direction, and they are our regional partners. And and this goes right down to even REMSA, where REMSA is transporting many times a day for these kinds of situations that could be dealt with in this type of a manner. So I'm supportive. I just want to make sure that everybody is in the conversation. And the other thing that I'd also like to point out is let's think about how, we had this conversation earlier, how NAF care at the CARES campus works back so that the folks at our CARES campus know people that have been treated through NAF care, and we can kind of, it's more of a collaborative effort in terms of treatments and how things have been treated, so that we kind of know our treatment staff at the CARES campus understands how to deal with some of these folks. And I think it's imperative that those communications, without any violations, of course, in HIPAA, but how those communications are ongoing and are essential, at least in my opinion. So maybe staff can talk about that and what our plan is for that continuum of care, I'll call it.
Absolutely. Dana Searcy. We are working through, as many of you are very familiar with, centralizing data across the homeless service community and all of our partners. The jail is definitely on that list. We have not sat down with them. That's kind of the next phase that we've been talking about, the emergency rooms, the jail, programs like Sober 24 just mentioned to you. That would be a great candidate for trying to centralize data with us to see who is out there, who are they working with, what do we already know about individuals, and how can we improve the work and build on the work that's already been started. I would also add there are several medical partners on site at the campus. One of the challenges that we're finding is that you need insurance in order to work with them. So this also bridges that gap, allowing for some immediate, emergency triage care so that we can stabilize individuals while they're working with case managers to get on insurance and then get them transferred over to one of our partners and set up with primary care and that kind of thing.
That's wonderful, and I know that we're. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to step on anybody. I know that we're working on this, and this is the first step. How do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? I get that, but I'm hopeful that we have a fairly decent roadmap of where we want to be and the partners that we need in order to make this a success. And I'll stand down, Madam Chair. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Commissioner Lucy.
Ms. Searcy, it's on my understanding that we are working with Hopes, Nevada Hopes, and also CHA at a number of our locations to address some of those issues that Chair Hartung brought up. Are those my understanding is that they don't require insurance, or do they require insurance to get services from those two stakeholders?
I am going to ask Katrina to step in and maybe give you a little more information, because I think what's happening, and you are all seeing this across the region, everybody's at capacity. So what we would like to do and what we can do when we have the capacity is maybe not what's happening right now when we're seeing that capacity completely tapped. We have been told by Hopes that they cannot help us right now. They're building another facility. They're completely at capacity. And we're working closely with them to develop that partnership. And obviously, they will be very close to the CARES campus. And what does that look like? And how can they provide immediate care when we need this type of triage so we're not relying on emergency services, and when we don't have insurance in place? Those kinds of conversations are definitely ongoing. I am not familiar with current practice.
So both Hopes and CHA are federally qualified health centers. They do accept patients that don't have insurance coverage, but as Dana mentioned, they're at max capacity. Community Health Alliance is providing services and establishing patients at our place, which is fantastic. As Dana mentioned, we reached out to Hopes. They're at max capacity and very excited to have a new facility to be able to meet that need. We've also extended the partnership at CARES to a few other entities that have helped try to meet some of this need. We've got Mobile One Docs, who is bringing on a medical provider, an MD, on site 1 day a week, but it has just barely scratched the surface of meeting the need. So this contract is intended to, as Dana mentioned, be able to provide care to every person regardless of insurance coverage. We're continuing to engage partners who can also help build that capacity and provide services on site.
Understood. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I think this is just another bridge for us to cross that troubled river. And so I appreciate that work. So very supportive. Thank you for that information.
Any other commissioner comments or questions?
Madam Chairwoman?
Yes, Commissioner Jung.
Thank you so much. I wanted to go back to the point that was made by Chairman Hartung about diversion from the emergency room, and be sure that staff understands and everybody understands that every diversion for indigent care is a net gain for both the emergency room and our budget, because we pay all the indigent care and by statute. So there's a win-win there, and both will be motivated. And I agree with staff saying, well, once we get the data then we would also be at a better negotiation point. I would remind this board, and I tried to do a quick search. You can't. It's hard to get a hold of the minutes. But when the Record Street building was first built, all the hospitals gave money towards that because they knew that that would be in their best interest. But remember, that was the City of Reno. City of Reno managed it. We're in a different seat because we pay the indigent care. So we should always be trying to divert any of that. And I'm glad that the vice chairman also mentioned REMSA, because if we're doing that and we're not calling REMSA for something that can be triaged, they're also not losing money or overtax the system. And there's another one we forgot, and that's Reno Fire. If we're taking care of that, they don't have to run to that either. So I agree with the vice chair, but I mean the chairman, but I do believe that it's going to take some time to negotiate it. And also we're sitting in a different position because it's in both our best interest to divert from ER. And then finally, one other thing that I wanted to mention, and I've been meaning to bring it up, and this is the perfect time. As many of you know, I walk the river a lot, a couple times a week, and that's been going on for a few years now. And as a matter of fact, Chairwoman Hill and I did the big cleanup behind the Indian Health Services that the tribe runs and behind the Walmart. And we can tell you, I was dismayed and, of course, my favorite thing, angry that there was all these people living there right on the river as if there are no rules, I guess, in the world. And I'm going to tell you something. I walk the river now, and I go all the way back down there, too, behind the Auto Museum. You should be patting yourself on the back. Most importantly, where most people hang out by the hub on Riverside, there's no tents over there. Go walk the river. There's nothing there. So, yes, of course, every biggest little is going to have, you go to Central Park in New York City, you will have people that maybe seem a little abnormal and unusual, but there is a tremendous change of the experience of walking that river right downtown. And that, I will argue to you, is thanks to this board's policy and direction and investment and Miss Searcy and Miss Peters' heavy, heavy lift. So I invite you to come walk with me. Let's go for a walk, and I'll show you what it used to. I will describe to you in great detail what it used to look like, because you guys, we cleaned that up. And I mean, of course, the City of Reno helped us too, because they had to enforce the laws. But there's a big difference now downtown, and I just hope you really pat yourselves on the back as a board, but also as a region, and especially these two staff who have just pushed that like Sisyphus. They're pushing that boulder right up that hill, and and not with a lot of net behind them. So well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, a lot has been said, and I think that you see the passion of this board for the work you're doing. Thank you so much, and we want to support you. So I know that we're in step one of emergency shelter, which we really want to get folks into permanent housing afterwards, and I know you're also working towards that, and so thank you for your work. Is there a motion that anyone would like to make on this item?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Lucy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do appreciate the comments this morning, and I would like to make a motion to approve the contract as posted in the staff report.
Thank you very much. Do I have a second?
That was a second.
Okay, Commissioner Hartung, that was a second.
Yes.
Thank you. And is there any public comment?
I have nobody signed in.
Okay, with the motion as second, all those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, please signal by saying nay. Hearing none, it carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, next up, we have item 12.
Item 12 is the Reno Justice Court recommends to approve a 10% increase to a Reno Justice Court Justice of the Peace salary when the court is operated with one fewer Justice of the Peace than what is authorized by NRS 4.020 Section 1B, to approve an additional 10% increase, a total increase of 20% to a Reno Justice Court Justice of the Peace salary when the court is operating with two or more fewer Justices of the Peace than what is authorized under by NRS 4.020, Section 1B, to terminate the temporary salary adjustment for justices of the peace that was approved by the BCC on October 12th, 2021, as outlined in the staff report.
Thank you very much. Does the commission want a presentation on this?
Madam Chair, I'd like to have Chief Judge Scott Pearson is with us today, and also Court Administrator Mr. James Conway. And so I'd like to hear from them in regards to this item, and if they could provide us a little bit of clarity, please.
Absolutely. So Chair Hartung through Vice Chair Hill, Scott Pearson, Chief Judge of the Reno Justice Court. And first I have to comment how far we've come. This is only my 12th year on the bench, but my 24th year working in our courts. And when I started, and many of you know for that other 12 years, I was a prosecutor in the district attorney's office. And we tried to incarcerate our way out of this problem with people with mental health issues or substance use disorder. And to hear today all the tremendous accomplishments that this board has made. The Department of Alternative Sentencing started as a bailiff in my department, Department 4, my predecessor, Judge Albright's bailiff, Joe Ingraham, went on to become the first chief of that department. And many communities don't have a DAS department. And when I started and met with one of the commissioners and said, look, we really need to support this DAS agency, they said, DA what? And that just doesn't happen anymore. This board completely understands that it's not soft on crime, it's smart on crime, that these are individuals of our community who deserve our help, that incarcerating somebody with mental health disorders is cruel on the defendant in many circumstances, incredibly difficult for the jail, and imagine the family and what they have to go through it. So I just want to commend you briefly before going into our item for all the great work you've done. And Commissioner Lucy mentioned community court. This board started the first community court in this state after Commissioner Lucy and I visited the first community court in the entire country back in New York. So the vision that this board has provided, the leadership, and yes, Commissioner Jung, I took my children down on the river probably a year or two ago, and I took them back on the roads because I was so worried about their safety, and the work you all have done to bring that river back as an asset to our community also is incredibly important. And finally, I just need to thank the two commissioners that won't be with us anymore at the end of this year for their partnership with the courts. Commissioner Lucy and Commissioner Jung have been incredibly supportive. Commissioner Jung and I remember, were at Crossroads when Secretary of State Hillary Clinton visited the program. She was so impressed with that program that this county supports that she went on across the country as she was running for president and said, let me tell you about this program they have in Reno, Nevada, and talked about the Crossroads program. And Commissioner Jung, without her support, none of those fantastic programs would exist. And Commissioner Lucy, from the first time we sat down at Pub and Sub to talk about all the great things we could do in partnership, you've just been an incredibly friend to the court and the community with all those programs. And so I know that's not necessarily this item, but it is, because what this item is you heard about needs, and Vice Chair Hill, you asked about needs, and I got a long list of the folks that come before me of what they need in order for us to pave a pathway for success for them and their families and those affected by their addiction and their mental health. But what our court is willing to do is what we can to save some of those valuable county resources to put towards those individuals. Again, when I started, Judge Albright had what was then the largest misdemeanor specialty court in the state. And I learned that they were paying him to stay on as a senior judge because none of the judges were willing to do the hard work to operate his specialty court. And they were paying him out of the grant that we received from the state to operate the program. That money that could go to housing, to treatment. So I was a DA. I didn't run to be a specialty court judge, but I said, you know what, look, I'll do it. I'll figure it out. But if that's money we can put towards treatment for these individuals, let's do it. And that's the same thing our court is willing to do in this agenda item, is say, look, yes, our court is entitled to 7 judges. But we know the statistics in this state. We know that we're not, while we're the busiest per case per judge court in Washoe County, I think we're only the 4th busiest limited jurisdiction court, and we are the 7th out of all courts in the state. There are 43 courts, and we're the 7th busiest. So we know we can handle the caseload if that money can go help some of these other individuals in the community that need it, and some of these great programs the county has. So I came before you last time I was the chief judge and indicated we could keep what was then the retirement of Judge Schrader open. Even Sam Dene came up and said, you all would be fools if you didn't go along with this. The judge says he can cover the workload and save you all money. So we think it's a bit of a no-brainer to save that money. We can do the work. The county commission can fill any of these spots as soon as they want to, put it on the agenda, appoint somebody if you feel that we're not getting the work done. But we're open more hours than any other court in this area. We're the only court open all day on Fridays. We have tremendous programs like the Self-Help Center that I know Vice Chair Hill is going to help us with our incredible court administrator who was the former director of Washoe Legal Services. We do, sadly, the majority of the evictions for this community as well. And so those individuals need, again, a pathway to success, or they're going to be back on somebody else's rolls, tax rolls somewhere or budget items. And so we do that. We have a kids court program that we do over 100 fifth grade classes every single year. Over 2,000 kids come through there. So it's not that we just get our work done. We do far more than that. And so you should not be worried about the current resources we have judicially. But after AB 424, we're also required to work 7 days a week, Saturday, Sunday. We've wanted it. We asked the stakeholders to do it years ago. We felt it's not fair if you're arrested on a Tuesday, you get to see the judge the next day, but if you're arrested on a Friday, you have to wait till Monday. We've wanted to do the weekends, but that is a significant additional workload for our judges, and we believe there should be some compensation consistent with every other contract that this board has with any other employment agency, whether that's the sheriffs or the employees or the district attorneys. There's compensation for on-call or weekend pay or whatever it may be, and that's far better than simply filling in another position. And we believe historically we've saved millions of dollars by doing this with partnership to the county. So with that, that's our proposal, and I'm available for any questions.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Lucy.
Chief Judge, I have to thank you and the municipal court for your continued, not the municipal, I'm sorry, the Justice Court, for your continued willingness to provide the services at a sacrifice of time from your families and challenges that you have done over the years. You've come many times in front of this board to provide solutions to problems that are constantly presented outside of your scope or purview of work. And I want to commend you and all of the judges that sit at the Justice Court. Your continued commitment to this community shows day in and day out. AB 424 was a very difficult decision. While with great intention of continuing to serve the community by the legislature, it did pose a significant challenge to many of the individuals that work, that understand the justice system, because it's not just the judges, it's the administrative staff, it is the DA's office, the APD's office, the PD's office. A number of individuals, even the sheriff, have challenges with making sure the safety of justice still continues day in and day out, now 7 days a week. And I think this is a reasonable request on your behest to move forward. And what I would do is, and Madam Chair, if you'll indulge me for just a minute, this just shows a commitment from those courts. We have not only Reno Justice Court that falls underneath our purview, but from an operations standpoint, but it also falls underneath the Sparks Justice Court and our Justice of the Peace in Wadsworth and Incline Village. And I think just shows you the dedication and commitment by certain judges to really truly make an impactful change to our community through finances. Because as we all know, tax dollars are important. And we, as fiduciary guidance for that, we need to continue to provide the best outcome possible. And when you're giving up time and energy to serve over the weekends, and I think this is tremendous, but it should be a model amongst all of those courts that fall underneath the operations purview of this commission. And when we talk about that, I'd like to see that this body continues to find efficiencies within the justice system, to work with judges such as Chief Judge Pearson, and make sure that those changes continue to occur. I would say that we have quite a few inefficiencies across the county that don't allow for this type of commitment. And I would like to see that this commission really work towards making those inefficiencies disappear. As you've stated over the last 24 years of your tenure and the 8 years of mine, that we've seen those programs and things evolve, and it's through these kinds of cost savings that those can. And so I would urge this commission to continue to look at efficiencies of, instead of just paying for judges and courts to be in operation, that we look at programming and work with our judiciary through CJAC, through Chief Judge Simons, Chief Judge Pearson, Chief Judge Higgins, to really make the difference as we move forward. So it is my pleasure and absolute honor to support this item today and move forward with this motion, Madam Chair. Those are my comments, and I will defer to the other commissioners.
Thank you.
Second.
Oh, there. Okay, that sounds like that. Was that in the form of a motion?
There wasn't a form of a motion, but I was allowing it.
Oh, sorry.
We've got a motion in a second, so we'll allow for discussion now. How about that?
Okay. I think that Commissioner Hartung has some comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And Chief Judge Pearson, I want to take us back to 2014. I am still in possession of a letter that you wrote to us when Judge Schrader retired, and we estimated the savings in 2014 dollars of $500,000 a year to keep these seats open. And you've really been a model for how to make courts efficient in our region, and I feel blessed to have you on the bench. And so, that said, I think we do need to remunerate these judges that are working extra hours, taking higher caseloads, and not filling those seats just because a seat is open. And we see this time and time again, and this is how government gets bloated. Because a seat is open, instead of saying, can we find efficiencies, we just fill that, or we create more and more and more FTEs, as opposed to going to our I'm just going to call them our employees and saying, hey, would you like to do a little overtime and we can pay you extra, which allows that particular employee to make more and do better in their own household, as well as saving taxpayer dollars because of all the associated FTEs that go along with filling a position. So, Judge Pearson, I'm highly supportive of this. I think that this is again an innovative way to solve these problems, and thank you for not just bloating the courts with additional judges when there's a better way to solve it. So I'll just leave it at that, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Any other comments from board members?
Madam Chairwoman, please.
Yes, please go ahead, Commissioner Jung.
Yes, and I would like to echo, thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I would like to echo what Commissioners Lucy and Chairman Hartung said. This is a best practice that probably should be implemented countywide. Even with our employee groups, I know, don't start calling me and sending me hate mail. I don't know what the contract reads about that, but there is something to be said about changing the passivity of expectation and instead engaging staff to say, you know what, we probably could qualify for these FTEs, but we'd rather have better health insurance. You see what I'm saying? So we'll split this up. And I don't know how you do that. And I am not saying this is an anti-union statement. I'm union all the way. I always will be. But I think it's the best practice. And to the chairman's point, it is being conscientious about what your taxpayers demand. And then most importantly, the why I agree with the judges on their actions and their wants and desires and needs, if they're, sustainable and realistic. They know how to run their courts way better than we ever will, and they were elected to do that. So that's why I quickly seconded it. There's no way I can tell them how to run that court or how to be efficient. And they'll let us know if we need to pull the trigger and hire a new judge. But as Mr. Commissioner Chairman Hartung mentioned, to passively just consolidate power by having more judges does nothing for the outcome and effectiveness. So I wholeheartedly respect it. And I thank you, Judge Pearson, for your kind comments, and right back at you. You are a superstar and a worker and a creative thinker, and you don't ever give up. And that's the luckiest we could ever ask for any elected official, but most importantly, somebody who holds people's fates right in your hand every day. And I know you take that very seriously and don't come from a place of elitism or morality. And I admire you so much for that. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, it sounds like we are very excited about supporting the courts. Before we vote on the motion, is there any public comment, Madam Clerk?
There is. First up, we have Elise Weatherly.
Elise Weatherly, all I would like to say is give them more. When I first heard that they were asking for funds a few months ago, I got on my knees to my God, and I said, I would like to see a spiritual, allegorical front-end loader, which I have driven in the past, full of cash dumping on their doorstep. That's what I would like. And of all of this, I think I've mentioned this before, of all of the things that I've seen in this community, there's only one judge in Sparks and one guy in Reno that I would say, please go away. The rest of them, it's like, I'm so grateful that you're here. There was a lady in my past named April Anderson who had some bad things to say about certain people. You and Mike Love from the Beach Boys. And so I was on her side, right? And then I went, wait a minute. Once again, I was wrong. She was wrong. The judge was right. Mike Love from the Beach Boys was right. Tom Gordon was right. All I have to say is that you guys have to put up with a whole bunch of people that think they're right, and they're not. Speaking of FTEs, that made me laugh, County Commissioner Hartung, when I was in charge of a department, and they would say, well, you've lost an employee, let's fill an FTE. I go, no, let's find a more efficient way of doing this. By the time I left, because God moved me out with a brain tumor, we were down to one other FTE besides me, and we were running it very efficiently. So I love the fact that there's an efficiency process in here, and I approve of it completely. Now, I would like to stay for closing comments, but I have to show the young man that Judge Egan Walker actually let me raise that I don't make false promises. So I have to go feed him. But thanks, you guys. Thank you.
Cindy Martinez.
Hello again, Commissioners. For the record, Cindy Martinez. And what I appreciate about the topics of alternative sentencing as well as Judge Pearson's presentation, and you were a prosecuting attorney when I was active duty at the Gaming Control Board, so I'm well aware of your record as a prosecutor and a judge, and thank you for what you do. With the net effect of what I heard today with the alternative sentencing and what the judge is proposing in this agenda item is something that I've been screaming about since I've been here, about protection of constitutional rights. And what you are talking about today in these two agenda items, and I'm glad that the discussion has been so broad-reaching about this, is that it communicates to the community not only about efficiencies and about projects, all the pieces that are involved in addressing the shortcomings or our challenged communities. But what I find is my primary concern is about protecting constitutional rights. We've been up here talking about our freedom of assembly and don't make me wear a mask, et cetera, but we didn't talk too much about was how the COVID restrictions affected the people who were in the justice system, how the shutdown of the courts affected their rights to due process. So with these efficiencies with alternative sentencing and also in the justice courts and finding different ways to move our offenders through the justice system, addresses their violations of 4th, 5th, 6th, and 8th Amendment rights. Just because they broke the law does not mean that they are not entitled to due process and an opportunity to correct their wrongs. And I appreciate what Commissioner Lucy said, because this was a philosophy I had as an arresting officer, is I arrested people who stole to feed their children. I did not like doing that, but the violation was of the law. The language was clear, and I made sure that my reports reflected the fact that they did something because they were desperate, not because they were manifestly evil. That's something that we don't talk about enough in our community. And I like the phrase that we did try to incarcerate ourselves out of this problem. We can't do that. There has to be a holistic approach, which is getting me labeled as a sellout and a rhino. But look, we got to look at the reality of what our society is facing. And if we don't look at that from a broad-based approach, we're going to be in a deeper hole. So I appreciate what you talked about, and I'm all about protecting constitutional rights. Saving dollars is going to protect constitutional rights of people that have been pushed to the margins. Thank you.
We have, or do we have any other?
There's nobody else.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion by Commissioner Lucy and a second by Commissioner Jung. All those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
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 Any opposed, please say nay. Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. And we are skipping our public hearing and now going to item 16.
Item 16 is public comment. Comment heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the commission agenda. The commission will also hear public comment during individual action items with comment limited to 3 minutes per person. Comments are to be made to the commission as a whole.
Cindy Martinez.
Thank you again, Commissioners. For the record, Cindy Martinez. And you know what I appreciate about being here is that when I first began my engagement here with you on December 15th, 2020, I was on fire about coronavirus, as many of us were. We had legitimate concerns about the administrative orders coming from Carson City, and we hope that that doesn't happen again. As I've articulated before, we do have reasonable concerns about infringement on our constitutional rights. And what I would hope you be aware of and remind you, even though I know that this isn't your purview regarding health management, is remember that COVID-19 hasn't gone away. It's re-emerging in whatever form or fashion, whatever you want to call it. And I would ask that this board be mindful of any hysteria that's coming from managing agencies who are saying you must, whatever it is, fill in the blank, wear a mask, stay at home. We don't want to do that again. Our citizenry do not want to be compelled to do that again. Interestingly enough, in Los Angeles, if you've seen Barbara Ferrer, their health director, who looks like she needs some vitamin D, some sunlight, is talking about the high incidence of cases. I'm going to quote from an article here. In a news conference on July 13th, Brad Spellberg, the chief medical officer of Los Angeles County and University of Southern California Medical Center, epidemiologist Paul Holtum, said there had been no changes in the transmission levels of COVID-19. Our COVID situation, this is a quote, is just the same. It has not changed, he said. He showed a graph and said it's plateaued and has not gone down. Now, they are seeing thousands of people with COVID, but it is mild and they go home. Of the patients who are admitted to the hospital, 90% of the time it is not due to COVID. Only 10% of our COVID-positive admissions are due to COVID. None of them go to the ICU, and when they do, it is not for pneumonia. They are not intubated. We have not seen one of those since February. A lot of people have, pay attention here, folks, a lot of people have really bad colds is what we are seeing. It's just not the same pandemic that it was, despite all the media hype to the contrary. I mean, a lot of people have bad colds is what we're seeing. So if you have a sniffle, doesn't mean that you have to go get a made in China swab and stick it up your nose. But what I would say also, as a reminder to the board here, is we're asking that you ban mandatory vaccinations, COVID-19, ban mandatory passports and any means or method of verification of medical status, because such verification is a violation of medical privacy and bodily autonomy, informed consent, and freedom of choice. Thank you.
There's nobody else signed in.
Thank you very much. Next up, we'll go to item number 17. Mr. Manager.
Item 17 is Commissioners and County Managers' announcements, reports, and updates, to include boards and commissions updates, requests for information, or topics for future agendas. I have nothing, Madam Chair.
Okay. Oh, yes, Commissioner Herman.
Thank you, Madam.
Is your microphone on?
It just
There we go.
didn't want to stay on. For Commissioner Jung, the garage has now been power washed. And there's no more cobwebs. I'm sure you're going to be very surprised when you come back. And then I wanted to talk about grants. And I know I have tried to get them before, and I know how much work it is. And almost all of our items today were regarding getting grants, and for mostly all very good purpose. And so I just wanted to thank those people that did all that hard work. And thank you to Ms. Martinez today, because the advice she gave at the end, I totally agree with.
Thank you, Commissioner Herman. Any other commissioners?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Commissioner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to thank the commission today. Today felt like a wonderful meeting. It felt like a normal meeting from years and years ago, where a lot of great business was taken care of today. And this commission worked as a whole for the benefit of the community. And I just want to thank, it's difficult to be a policymaker. It's difficult to make the decisions that we make sometimes, but these days are like, for me, are very beneficial in the sense of this is those good days that we get to take home and know that we have an opportunity to impact effective change within our community. And so I want to thank this commission for their continued support and their committed dedication to a betterment of our region and our county. And I'll say this all the time, it's not about Republicans, Democrats, or what party it's about Nevadans, and it's about who we are as a people and who we are as a community. And we fought to establish we're a state, and we will continue as pioneers to continue to pioneer new horizons as new fires and new challenges come in front of us. And it's important, and the work that we do here is important day in and day out, and it is very impactful. Those that may not understand the impact that we have, but we do without any reason other than selflessness and a reason to participate in the public process and democracy and to maintain a republic. So thank you for allowing the opportunity today to work through these processes and the programs that we have instituted here. And I just a heartfelt thank you to the staff, this commission, and this county as a whole. So I do appreciate it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Lucy. So well said. Any other commissioners have comments? Commissioner Jung or Commissioner Hartung?
No, thank you. Well done, Madam Chairwoman.
No, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you so much. You did a great job.
Thank you. And I just would like to add one more thing for the manager. Can we get an update on 988 for the public? I think it would be really helpful for them to understand what that program's all about and how they can utilize it. Thank you very much. And with that, we are adjourned.
Great meeting. Super fun.